Great. So yes, today I'm going to talk about Lens and how to get it up and running, how to install it, and maybe if we have time, I will show how to do some fancy stuff with the Lens. So Lens is Kubernetes IDE. It's a desktop application that visualizes Kubernetes clusters. And we say that it's IDE, which basically means something different than traditional dashboard for Kubernetes. So why do we need this kind of IDEs for Kubernetes? So I think most of the companies nowadays who try to be more like cloud native or maybe transforming to microservice architectures, they use Kubernetes in some way or another. So basically it means that most of the developers have to somehow interact with the clusters, with the Kubernetes core resources like pods and deployments, and it's a bit complicated actually. There are so many things happening within a Kubernetes cluster. Your configuration files might be quite long YAML files, and it's not that easy to see what's going on in a cluster or with your own deployments or applications on that cluster with just kubectl or with other traditional tools. It might not show the live state of applications or clusters. So we could say that Kubernetes is difficult and complex for day-to-day use, but it doesn't have to be if you use something like Lens. So Lens is designed to take control of your Kubernetes clusters wherever they might be. They might be on your local computer, like Minikube. They might be in a cloud, like, for example, in Google or AWS, or they might be on your on-prem Kubernetes clusters. All you need to do is to have the Lens application running on your own machine, like on your laptop or desktop machine, and you need to have kubeconfig files that describe how to connect to a cluster. And you can connect to multiple clusters if you want, and you probably want to connect if you have multiple clusters. And even though we say that this helps developers to understand the applications in Kubernetes, Lens is not just for developers. It's also for the ops who are actually trying to keep up those, or trying to maintain and you know, handle the life cycle management of those Kubernetes clusters. And Lens is open source, and you can download it directly from our website or from GitHub, and it's free, of course. Some statistics about Lens. I think it's number one Kubernetes IDE out there. I think it's most popular software for these purposes. In a Kubernetes ecosystem, we have currently over 8,000 stargazers on GitHub. And we have something like 60,000 or more active users. And also something like over 750,000 downloads from GitHub, and it's growing all the time. All right, basic stuff. So you can now connect multiple clusters to Lens by using kubeconfig files that you might have already on your file system, or you might have them in some cloud provider where you can copy those. Once you have been adding those to application, you can switch between the clusters quite easily, and it works with almost any certified Kubernetes distribution out there. At least it should work. Lens is just connecting to the Kubernetes API. And you don't have to install anything inside a cluster. So because Lens is running on a desktop, it just uses the git config to connect to a cluster. And that way, developer doesn't have to ask admins to install some software to a cluster, which is nice. So it's basically like a kubectl, but graphical user interface and lots of other features. All right, so I'm going to first show how to actually, get Lens up and running, how to install it first on the macOS, and then I will show also how to do that on Linux and on Windows. So just a moment, I will switch my screen. So, as the title said, we have 5 minutes. Let's see how this goes. Wish me luck. So, the software can be downloaded from k8slens.dev website. We have this big button here, download, and let's do that. It goes to a GitHub webpage where we have the latest release available. And you can see the download links here. So we have 2 alternatives for Linux, and then we have Mac installer and also installer for Windows. But because I'm using Mac, I want to take this macOS file. And actually, I already have it on my file system. So just to save some time, it's here. This is the file that comes from the GitHub. And I just have to double click it. And this kind of installer screen is presented. And the usual stuff for Mac users, you have to drag and drop. Oops, it's not that easy. You have to drag and drop the Lens application, the application folder, and just put it there. Like that. Now it's installed. You can try it. Double click the application. Then macOS is warning that, yeah, you have been downloading this from GitHub. Are you sure you want to open? Yes, I am sure. I want to open it. And Lens is up and running. And this is the first screen that user is presented after installation. And I could start adding clusters here. Adding a cluster is quite easy. I already have a kubeconfig file on my default file system location. And I have a Minikube running on my computer. So I'm selecting that. And I will click Add Cluster. And here we are. We just installed Lens from the website, started it, and connected to a cluster, which is Minikube running on my Mac. So it's that easy. I think we did it in under 5 minutes. I hope so. But let's try to do the same with Linux on Ubuntu. So I have my virtual environment here. I will start the Ubuntu environment and let's see how it goes. Here we are in Ubuntu. I hope this is still visible. I think it is. Yeah. So on Ubuntu, we have 2 options. We could download the application bundle from GitHub, but Ubuntu also has this kind of Ubuntu software app store. And Lens is available also from there. So we could try to find Lens. Yes, here it is. Looks okay, so let's install it. I have to type in my password. And it seems that it already installed. I will close this window. And here it is. And the Lens is starting up. Yes. What's new? 364. And here we are. We could add a new clusters. I don't have anything in this virtual environment, but basically the logic is the same as with the macOS application. You could choose a kubectl file or even add your own custom config here. So this is the easy way on Ubuntu to install the Lens application. We could try the hard way also. So you could go to the Lens website, click the download button, and the Snapcraft means the app store that we just tried, so let's not go there. Let's try this app image. I don't want to open it with archive, I want to save it. And hopefully it will download pretty fast. Yeah. Basically, this app image is something that works on almost on any Linux distro. So you can just download the bundle, give it an executable permission, and then start the application, and it should work almost on any Linux distro out there, except Alpine Linux. Few seconds left. Yep, it's downloaded. It's here. And as I said, we need to add this executable permission to this binary. So this might be the easiest way to do it by clicking through the UI. Now it has it, and then I just double click this file. And here we are. So basically the app image doesn't need any kind of installation. You just have to download and execute the file, and you will have a Lens up and running. Yeah. So that's it for the Linux. It should be quite easy. Let's switch to Windows. Like that. I'm starting my virtual Windows environment. Should be up and running. Yes. Let's see if this is actually running. Yeah. So on Windows, we need to go to the website. We need to hit again this blue download button here.
Jari, I think you have muted yourself. There you are. Now you're back.
Yes, sorry about that. it was my Bluetooth connection. So it seems that whenever you boot this kind of virtual Windows environment, you will lose your Bluetooth. But here we are again, I hope. So for Windows, we need to download the Windows installer like this. I'm brave enough that I can just run it directly. I don't want to, try to inspect this executable, but yeah, that's the easiest way. Let's see. The executable for Windows shouldn't require any admin permissions. It should be able to install itself with the normal user permissions. So that's handy for users who don't have the admin privileges on Windows, like most of the corporate users won't probably have admin permissions. And by the way, these installers are also signed and with certificates, so they should work quite fine even with these antivirus scanners if you have those installed and running. Okay, we are still missing 20 seconds here, so the binary is quite big, or the executable is quite big, because we are bundling kubectl and a bunch of other stuff within a lens, so that it works with different Kubernetes clusters and in a different environments on Windows. Yeah, let's wait a bit. Great success. So now Windows is doing the security scan for this executable, and after that, it should be basically up and running. The executable is this kind of automatic installer that it actually extracts itself and launches the application. Yes, here we are. It's trying to do the installation. And it seems that my machine is a bit slow today, but it should work. Yes, and here we are. Lens the Kubernetes IDE on Windows, and we could start adding clusters and stuff like that. So installation is not, it shouldn't be too hard. We have tried to streamline the installation experience so that it's quite easy to get started, at least to get the application up and running. And the application itself is doing automatic updates behind the scenes. So whenever we have a new stable release, the application upgrades itself and notifies user when there is this kind of upgrade available. So basically, you will get always the latest and greatest and the most stable version that we provide. All right, so I'm going to shut down this Windows machine and go back to the Mac OS, which I personally prefer, and I have Kubernetes clusters there. Shut down this Windows machine and yeah, where did I put my lens? Here. back on Mac, and I have the Minikube connected to my Lens, and as you can see, the first thing that Lens says to me that you don't, or I don't have a metrics available in this cluster, and the way to fix this is basically to install Prometheus to a cluster, or if your cluster already has Prometheus, Lens tries to automatically find that and use that. But if this kind of auto detection is not working, you can even define a Prometheus address. And this can be done through the cluster settings. So you can go over the cluster icon here and right click settings, and you will be presented with a bunch of options that you can tweak. And as you can see, the Prometheus is in auto detect mode, but my Minikube doesn't have anything like that running. So the easiest way to get the Prometheus there is to just hit this metrics install button, which actually creates a Prometheus stack deployment, and it configures the Prometheus so that the Lens can consume it. So let's try that one. Install, and we can probably even go back to the cluster and see that it's actually now deploying the Lens metric stack to this Minikube. And it's deployed. Everything is green. And after a couple of moments, Lens should actually see the metrics coming in. So it takes a couple of minutes, usually the Prometheus, to actually scrape the data from pods and the nodes. But after that, you will see metrics here in different places. Oh, we already have that. Great. So for example, you can see Kubernetes node metrics like CPU, memory, and stuff like that. Then I have one remote cluster ready, and we could try to add that also to Lens. So I did spawn one Kubernetes cluster, the Google Cloud, and it's running here. And there is this nice connect button in Google Cloud UI. Let's try that one. It will give me instructions how to add this this kubeconfig to my kubectl. So I'm going to try that. Like this. Let's test that it actually works. Yeah, it seems my kubectl is connected to this GKE cluster. So let's switch back to Lens, add cluster button, and it's this one, basically. And let's click the add cluster button. Like this. So now Lens actually read the local kubeconfig file that was configured by the Google Cloud, and it got permissions and information to connect to the Google Cloud Kubernetes engine. And now I have visibility to there also. And I can see everything what's happening within that cluster. So from this point forward, you probably would like to maybe deploy your own applications to these clusters, or maybe you would like to kind of like monitor your applications or troubleshoot them, or just figure out if everything is fine with your applications or with your Kubernetes cluster. But I think that's a topic for another meetup, and we can then dive into the details how to actually actually use the Lens and how to troubleshoot and monitor and even deploy applications. So yeah, that's it from the demos. I will show a couple of more slides. So I think we got Lens up and running under 5 minutes or so, even on a multiple operating systems.
So, as I said at the beginning, we're very glad that people have joined this meetup group, and we hope that you will keep coming back. If you have ideas for topics, if there are particular questions or workflows, for example, that you would like us to demonstrate in depth, I'm sure that the folks at Lens Project would be happy to contemplate providing you exactly what you ask for. If you can think of ideas for future meetups in general, we are perfectly delighted to receive your comments and suggestions. And obviously, to repeat the message, Mirantis Project Lens is hiring. And if any of your companies are hiring, you are welcome to share that information with people assembled here. Finally, if you have ideas for things that can supplement for pizza during the pandemic that you think attendees would enjoy receiving, we are looking for ideas. And I'd like to thank Jari and other Lens folks who have joined us today, and my colleague Michelle Yakura, who is suffering from internet weather, but is very much present. And I guess that's a wrap.